And last but not least, let's talk about the second season of House of the Dragon. And
Sure.
I will attempt to make a brief enough synopsis of this, and
Sure.
we may get a minor spoiler too. In particular with that finale though, because there's a few things about the finale that I want to talk about, right? But yeah, House of the Dragon, you all know, spin-off, or I should say prequel of Game of Thrones, which is
Right.
a show that I still enjoy. And as I said before, I still want to buy the box set. That's one of my dream buys. But yes, I know that the last two seasons are very problematic. But that's
Yeah.
because two men, wanted to get that Star Wars money. So you say, you know what? You see that Game of Thrones fans who was like, just salivating, with every episode and whatnot. You're fucked up. I just wanna like get that Star Wars money.
I still, somebody had explained to me why it is they couldn't get new showrunners and have them leave.
Thank you.
I couldn't follow that. Like, I still can't follow the logic
It's
there. Whatever.
HBO, Dread. Like what's it, HBO?
I think
Tell me
it's
they
now
can't get
Walking Dead
nobody.
had like about 7 showrunners in like 10 seasons. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, right?
Whatever.
But despite the problematic two seasons, even though I kind of defend certain aspects of the finale, I know there's people who hate the series finale. They hate everything about it, right? They are
It just felt rushed. Like, I watched it after. It felt rushed. So I watched it after, and I just nodded my head and be like, all right, well, this just needed more time to breathe. Like,
Yeah,
almost the entire thing was, this just needed more time to breathe. That's it.
Yeah, that's
It just feels real rushed.
like
Sure.
like
But it
six.
was like it was a bunch of okay ideas, including the ending. Like, it's Brandy Broken or whatever it was, right? I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
It's not the worst idea. Like, script wise, it's not the worst idea. It's just, you need time to breathe. So whatever.
That's the thing, right? But yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't hate the show, right? For me,
Yeah.
it is it's to me it's just one of the pure examples of cinematic television making, right? That's the best way I could sum it up, right? Like, cause yeah, like literally every episode of Game of Thrones and the show here literally feels like you're just watching some big budget epic film, right? From the
Right.
cinematography to the acting, just everything feels so top notch though, so polished, right? It is still one of the best made shows I would say ever made, in my opinion, right? Both Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, right? So yeah, House of Dragon, right? The first season came on in 2022. We covered it. I absolutely enjoyed it. It was in my top
Yeah.
5 as far as best TV shows of that year. And of course, it was a matter of time before we got season 2, right? So yeah, literally 2 years we had to wait, right? And I'll just say this right out the bat. It's a good thing that I did it, and I would strongly recommend that you do so, unless you are some diehard super Game of Thrones nerd, or you just know all of George R. R. Martin's works and you know every single thing as far as, the Song of Ice and Fire and Blood and all these things, right? Unless you know all these things by heart, Dread, I strongly recommend that you recap the first season. I really recommend that you do that, right? If you just go in just marginally familiar with what you saw 2 years ago, you probably will get lost real quick, right? But fortunately,
Right.
the show is done in such a way where it would help if you remember a majority of the first season, but you don't have to if you don't want to, right? But it helps if you do. That's the best way I could sum it up, right? So,
Right.
season 2 pretty much follows up where season 1 ended, where, yeah, what was set up in the first season was basically the friendship that would be between Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent Hightower. Yeah, they started off as friends, and then, well, eventually, because of just the politics and just how weird the times were, yeah, they ended up becoming rivals, right? Because, yeah, Alicent ended up becoming the wife of Rhaenyra's father, King Viserys, who eventually dies. And now it just ends up becoming like a house being divided, right? Now it's just basically, Rhaenyra versus Alicent, right? So two halves now, two specific houses now, and they're just warring with each other, right? But this pretty much ends now with one of Rhaenyra's sons being killed by this utter douchebag by the name of Aemon, right? Also a Targaryen as well, right? And they set it up earlier too in that season, right? Yeah, Aemon practically is this big asshole, right? But because, as a kid, he got his eye gouged out, right? Well, I should say, yeah, well, he got his eye damaged, right? And he had a losing the eye. Yeah, his goal pretty much is just to be dominant and just, lash out at pretty much everybody around it, right? So yeah, it eventually ended with the death of one of Rhaenyra's story's kids, right? And yeah, that pretty much starts this. Well, I should say that fuels the rivalry even further, right? So in this case, now it pretty much is just the war between the two of them about to begin, but it's just basically about each side, each house, trying to get as much allies as possible, right? So it's about this house who was aligned to Viserys in the beginning, or was aligned to his, to the previous king, and all that kind of stuff. It's just about getting the allies together, also getting dragons, as much dragons as possible. So, Aemon has Vega, he acquired him as a kid, and yeah, that dragon get huge now, and he just like, he's just a badass at this point in time, right? While all this is going on now, you really see how this battle, or this upcoming war, has affected Rhaenyra and Alicent's life, right? Because yeah, even though they call themselves queens and they both desire to sit on the Iron Throne, right? And they set up in the first season why that can't be. Like, they literally say this in the first episode, like, I think it's the first minute, yeah, women can't sit there, right? But it's like, no, we kind of believe that we are destined to do so. Rhaenyra in particular really believes that she needs to sit there, right? Because of what her father told her, right? But because when her father died, and what Alicent heard him say, which is basically this whole prophecy about, the Song of Ice and Fire, yeah, Alicent interpreted as, Aegon, who is, one of one of her sons, yeah, he's supposed to be the one who's supposed to sit on the throne, right? But that is, as we know from Game of Thrones lore, yeah, it's just a misinterpretation of that prophecy, right? But believe it or not, and we get to this.
Well, they kind of address that later.
Yeah,
like
right.
Especially in the finale. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
In the finale, yeah, you realize, oh no, this is what the prophecy actually is, and it's amazing that a particular character finds this out, right? We'll get to that in the spoilers, right? So yeah, at the end of the day, it's just about acquiring what needs to be acquired before the war starts, right? And I'll just give like this quick summary, this kind of spoiler-free stuff, and then we'll get to the finale in a bit, right? So just give them a spoiler-free thoughts one time, right? So for me, right, and I make this joke on Facebook, right? This is basically Shogun season 1 all over again. Where it's the looming threat of war, but we don't actually see a war. And I know for some people, I see this already on social media, that will be a turn off, especially with that finale. And I am speaking as somebody who is not versed in everything George R.R. Martin, right? So I don't know all the books and I don't know all the lore. I saw Game of Thrones from start to end, but I don't remember much of the world building that was going on there. So I even though this is a prequel, I can't tell you, well, this will eventually lead to this and this, because dog, that was last decade that I watched Game of Thrones, right? So I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry, but that's where I'm at, right? But that being said, I still think that this is a fantastic season. But I know that this will be...
I don't like it as much as season 1, but yeah.
Well, same here too, right? But I know for some fans, they might find this season to be rather underwhelming. And it goes back to what I said before. It's the looming threat of war. It's, the big threat is coming, but it's all about that. It's all about, the war is coming. And even, you'll get to that with the spoilers with the finale, even I always tell myself, okay, we're going to get to the war. It's like, well, no. It's just the lead up. It's all set up. It's all the... All right, I should say the first season is the setup for the war. And I love the first season for that, right? I love how it builds and how you see how Rhaenyra and Alicent have a part to play in all of this, right? Because, and this is why I love the first season and how they set that up very well, right? Even though they have a right to speak their mind and say what they have to say, because they are because they have power, because they have authority, it's still patriarchal. It's still this patriarchal system. It's all driven by, and there's a lot of moments with that, right? With Rhaenyra and Alicent. It's all these people who come in, it's all these men coming in the meetings and saying, well, this is what you need to do. You need to do this. You need to show your face. Or in the case of Alicent, no, we don't want you to be front and center in the war. What if you were to die? So there's a lot of people, there's a lot of men telling them what to do, and you see how that affects them, especially in the second season, right? Especially with them being mothers, right? And there's a great scene involving those two where we're still in spoiler-free territory here, right? Where this could have been the moment where the whole war, or at least that whole threat of war, could have ended with that one conversation, right? But both of them know that it's not even gonna matter because the choice has already been made. Everybody done picked this side. War gonna start, regardless of what they say, regardless of what mutual ground they come to. It's not gonna matter at the end of the day, and that's the tragedy of that conversation. See, but more on that in the spoiler for the finale, right? Yeah, you really see how they feel in all of this, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just about these people who have their own grievances with each other, just saying, look, we just wanna waste all the out, that's just how it is. We don't really, and I love how even in the second season they say this. Eventually, when one were to look back at what started the war in the first place, nobody could really tell you. It's kind of convoluted and it kind of make any sense because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. And I love that. Just in a sort of a weird nihilistic way, it kind of ultimately doesn't matter who claims the Iron Throne in the first place, right? It's just, oh, I just hate you because you like this person or this or whatever. You take out my son's eye, so it's an eye and an eye, and you want to kill my son and all that kind of stuff. That's what it all boils down to, right? And that's what I love about the season here too in particular. It's just really the circumstances with these characters and why they all kind of come to the conclusion, we just gonna go to war with these people and because, that's why. That's what really what it is, right? Again, just in terms of the technical aspects, this show is like flawless to me, right? Whether it's the cinematography, like my God, this is Oscar-worthy stuff, right? Or I should say Emmy-worthy stuff, right? I mean, it's always been flawless throughout the series, right? Although, yes, when it comes to darkly lit scenes, especially like moonlit scenes, like there was an episode in particular in season 1, which was just characters on a beach, and it was a moonlit beach, and you could barely see what's going on. Yes, the lighting and dark scenes will always be an issue, right? But I didn't find that much issues with the visuals in this one, right? It still looks they still look spectacular, right? Sound design, great. Visual effects, fantastic. Especially with the dragon stuff, right? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to this show in particular, that's what people kind of tune in to see. We want to see dragons just being dragons and being badasses, right? And it works, right? Episode 4, yes, there's a moment, and everybody will talk about episode 4 being the best. And I agree with them, it is the best because, you get this legit, fantastic dragon battle, though. How it ends, though, was shocking. It kept me on the edge of my seat. And boy, a character went down, Dread. I didn't see that one coming. Because yes, like I made sure to avoid spoilers like the plague, right? So when that happened, I was like, oh shit, geez, right? And then there's it is always, when it comes to Game of Thrones, there's always the penultimate episode. There's some big moment that happens here. And there's one involving dragons that I thought was kind of amazing, right? Especially with the camera work, though. Very slight spoiler, very Cloverfield inspired, right? Very much, I'm on the ground and I'm following the human, but there's this large dragon who try to eat me, is that kind of vibe there. So he trying to move, the cameraman or whatever, trying to move with the human who running away basically from the dragon. I love just the framing of that particular sequence, right? That was great, right? Acting, fantastic across the board. Everybody come do the thing, right?
Shout out to Abigail Thorne. Abigail Thorne, YouTuber, I've been following her. She's in this.
Yes, she shows up in the finale. I didn't know who she was.
Sharona.
I did a little research, like, oh, you're a YouTuber, what?
But she was in the Acolyte as well. But she had a couple of episodes in the Acolyte as well.
Oh, was she one of the one of the sisters?
The
witches?
Space witches.
Right. Not surprised as well. Yes. And you know what I mean? I do admire the fact that they actually get like a trans, actress to show up to play that, right? So great. You know what I mean? I applaud that, right? But performance is great. Matt Smith actually, I would say, show a lot of character growth in this season here, boy, right? Because, in the first season, he was like this asshole guy. You don't really like him. He just all about, I just want to be all dark and brooding and kill people. You know what I mean? But I do like the character growth that he's given here, right? In particular, slight spoiler here, right? They actually put him in a haunted castle. That catch me by surprise, right? Yeah, it's not haunted per se, but it's a castle where even the people who run the place, right, say, oh, they hear voices, whispers, right? The spirits of deceased people are there, right? And Damon just goes through like the motions, so he's just reflecting on dead relatives. So so he's like seeing people from his past and whatnot. but it all leads to this big reveal in the finale that caught me by surprise. But yeah, I think it totally works, right? And just again, just the character arc that he goes through was great, right? I'll say about Rhaenyra, right? Who's played by Emma Darcy, right? Yeah, I felt that she really shone here in the season, right? Where basically it's like she was just being pushed. She was just being pushed, but people kept telling her, we don't want you to fight. You're not supposed to be out there or whatnot. And you're a woman and all that kind of stuff, right? But I love that she finds a way, even though I kind of have issues with the way itself. I'll get to that in the spoilers. Yeah, she finds a way to be an integral part of this war, right? So in other words, it's not just about her being this I'm actually the real queen, right? It's not just her seeing that she is the real queen and whatnot. No, she is gonna, she's gonna play a bigger role in the war itself, right? And I love how she comes to that realization, right? And I also love Alicent's arc as well too, even though that it feels like a reverse version of that, right? Here's where everybody keeps kind of telling her, where she kind of feels like she should step up and do something, right? But because she loses so much, it's just like, I can't do this. I can't be a part of this war. And even Aegon's wife and all too, Helena, yeah, she doesn't want anything to do in that as well too, right? So Alicent herself just wanting to just back out of it makes a lot of sense, right? Even though there's a lot of people who will tell her, no, you should be front and center as well. It's just like, nah, I just don't want a part to play this. And it makes a lot of sense. So you could tell that, and it wasn't just some decision she just came up with on the fly. It really did lead up to that particular point where it's just like, I don't want anything to do with this, right? She tried, but she just don't want anything to do with it at all, right? I really dug that, right? The main bad guy is Emondo, right? Played brilliantly by Ewan Mitchell. This guy is a guy that you love to hate, though. And I mean, he might have the eye patch down already, right? But just how slimy of a villain he is, Jed. Even right down to something that he does with his brother, Aegon. We'll get to that in the spoiler section. I was like, dog, how you could do that, Jed? But I understand why, but how you could do that, boy, right? Talk about being up. I mean, I love opportunistic people there, but oh gosh, man, not like that, Jed. Come on, right? And yeah, these side characters are great as well. I love how they explore certain characters as well. I love how they introduce certain characters, right? Especially the bastard children of Lord Corlys, right? I love how they set that up to the idea of bastard children, right? And it totally works, right? As far as gripes go, yes, pacing is an issue. It always has been an issue, I would say, with this show. And I would say, just as a casual viewer, it is one of those shows that you have to be patient with, right? It's not a show that you will get some sex scene or some piece of nudity or somebody get a head chopped off every 5 minutes. That is not that type of show. It's one of those shows you have to kind of sit with and really take in what's going on, really understand what's being said, right? And then when those moments happen, when those like extreme moments happen, they feel justified. They don't feel like shock value. They just sort of happen, but they feel like they need to happen, right? And it happens at just the right time. And of course, it's Game of Thrones, so they're very unexpected. You don't know when those moments are going to happen. You don't know how intense they're going to be. But when they happen, boy, it's like, yeah, they always catch you by surprise, right? Yeah. But I can understand some people finding this season to be slow and sluggish. I understand, but I felt that it was justified. It is the build-up to the war itself, right? And I have no problem with that, right? Also, I do like the fact that this season is 8 episodes because, yeah, I would have complained a lot about pacing if it was 10 episodes like last time, right? But nah, this one was 8. They knew the stories that they were telling, they knew the arcs, they knew the progression of these character arcs and whatnot. They knew, the showrunners know exactly what it is they're doing, right? But it's just for me, and I know this will be an issue for many people, I kind of wanted to see the war dread. Like, I don't mind the setup and the build-up to it, but I don't know. Just like Shogun, I was like, I kind of want to see something though, you know what I mean? So, you didn't really get that though, but I understand that's just what it is, right? So let's just wrap up here and then you'll get to your thoughts and then we'll get to that finale and some few spoilers. We're supposed to get 2 more seasons of this show. So the next one, we will get season 3 in 2026. I just found out actually because Max actually put out this promo I think this morning actually on YouTube. Yeah, we're going to be getting another prequel to Game of Thrones next year. It's going to be called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I don't know
Right,
if this.
another show. Yeah.
Yeah, and this
But
is.
they're all with the big vision scene. That was like that hint at everything and including some events from that. So like, okay, I see where they're going with it.
Okay. Yeah. That would be great though. Just slight spoiler. That would be great if this new show connects to that vision, right? That would be great, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I apparently it's based off of what one of George R. R. Martin's novellas. I hear novellas, so I'm thinking this is gonna be a limited series. I don't think they're gonna
Right.
stretch this new show out even more because we already have House of Dragon that exists right now. So I don't think there'll be a reason to stretch this show, but I don't know what's going on. I guess you'll see when the trailer drops or whatever it is. I don't know. But I'm not excited for it to be honest because I don't know what to expect from it to be honest, right? But given the quality, I'll check it out. I know it'll be solid business, man, So yeah, in the meantime, while we wait for season 3, we gotta wait a couple more years again. I guess this show will have to do come next year, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that this season here was just as solid as the first one, right? It's a slight step down, I would say, in terms of just again, is the build up. It's what it's all leading up to, and I would say even though I was impressed and I was I was actually satisfied with the finale. A part of me is still like I still want to see the war though. It's just one of those
Right.
things. It's one of those things that like I similar to the end of the first season of Shogun. But then if you remember with my review of Shogun, I treated that as a mini series. I didn't know that we was gonna get a second season. And then the announcement came out, right? So yeah, I was like, okay, well, you tell them about war, and you don't see nothing. So what am I to take out of that, right? But I still enjoyed the show nonetheless, right? So I kind of felt similar with this show here, with this season here, right? Where you keep telling them about the war and the war and the war and the war, but and you show me nothing as yet, right? But as far as the setup, it's great. Where the characters are, up until the finale is great. And yeah, it's literally left at a satisfying enough cliffhanger to the point that yeah, I don't mind waiting a couple more years to see how this show plays out, right? And I absolutely love the fact that we're getting 2 more seasons after this because yeah, I don't see the show going on as long as it should. Like it shouldn't run on for 6 or 7 seasons at all. It should just sort of tell its story and then you rewatch Game of Thrones and see how it continues on. That's how it should work, right? Not stretch it out even further, right? So it's like that, right? So yeah, we'll get to ratings at the end of this, right? But yeah, I talk long enough. But yeah, Ricardo, spoiler-free thoughts, and then you'll get a little spoilery with the finale. But yeah, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on the season here?
Yeah, no, I dug the hell out of this. Again, I didn't like it as much as season one, but it does and it does the expo dump stuff that I'm not a fan of necessarily, but because I not super familiar with the world of Game of Thrones, and I kind of don't care to be honest. I just watch it for what it was, and yeah, it was a solid enough like story and workable conceit as its own, and like as I say with episode 4, what they do there was real hard. And it's just the usual vicious backbiting nonsense that they do with these shows that they do really well um as it is. So that's why I couldn't I didn't hate it. Like I didn't like I hated it or anything like that. But I felt one well, I suppose it's the second and last episode, but I felt episode 8 was a little bit of a letdown, mostly because of how much of the blatant expo dump stuff of telling us, okay, with showing us stuff that we see already. But to be fair, the nature of it and how it's done, because we know these narratives go in cycles and the whole what is the werewoods or whatever it is. Um these conceits work as just visions and not necessarily prophecies, and they can make it work for what it is. And what they do with that in the whole werewolves vision thing, like I get what they're going for. I feel a lot of that stuff we'll see either they show us they show us as a character on the throne in the vision, and it's like all right, that's probably gonna be this is probably next season probably or something like that. The way how they reframe these ideas and there's a lot of changes from the book if I remember correctly, from what I understand. Like I had to look up that on other people's videos. Oh, okay, that's what I mean, and blah blah blah. That's about it. I didn't hate this. It's good, but I could have be as I say, I wish we had more. I wish it had not so much more. How to describe it? Not that it have more, but I felt they could have just focused on the deeper character stuff as a conceit for what it is because they had to change so much from the book. But yeah, I dug the hell out of this. That's I suppose a spoiler free I could get. That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So spoiler territory. You've been one EU, right? So not gonna get into every single thing that happens. But I really want to touch on 2 episodes, right? So that'll be episode 4 and the finale, right? Episode 8, right? So 4, right? How it ends, that battle with Eamon and Rhaenys, right? Rhaenys, right?
Yep.
That's the that is, oh gosh, that is the aunt of Rhaenyra, right? Rhaenyra, sorry. Forgive us if we butchering the name, folks. We're sorry, right? We're not big, GOT fans, right? Yeah, it was fantastic though, right? Just the intensity of it too, especially again, it's just kneeling. What the show really kneels well is just those dragon riding battles, right? And just the it's just just the dragons doing their thing, right? But yeah, Rhaenys dies, right? And that caught me by surprise though, and just how she dies as well too, with her, well, literally her dragon's head being severed, well, basically being ripped off, right? Basically, right? Yeah, and just see the dragon body falling, and there's that shot of it falling as well too. Yeah, that really got to me, right? But the surprise for me though was Aegon Dread just being on his dragon, and Aemon, literally his brother, watching him like, I think I could fuck you up now, Dread, and literally like torching his dragon and well, Aegon in the process, right?
Right.
Yeah, Aegon in the process. Sorry. Yeah, I thought like Aegon, the king himself, died now, but yeah, surprise, surprise, he's alive. Though, well, he's alive at this point. Yeah, badly injured and whatnot. There's actually a conversation scene with him and Iron Rod, right? As he the creepy guy who ran into feet, if you remember from the last season. Yeah, talk
Right.
about, I don't have a cock anymore, and when I pee, that was a nice little joke. And like when I pee, it runs on my
Right.
leg. That was a nice little joke, even though it's really dark in the finale, right? Yeah, like he is alive, but the question is, will he survive long enough to become king, right? But we get to that in the finale, right? But yeah, though, is that moment that really, really surprised me. Not so much Rhaenys' death, but yeah, Aemon, sorry, attacking Aegon, though. Like, wow, that's your brother, Dre. That's your flesh and blood. What is he doing, right? Because the whole thing was about, is the two of them against Rhaenyra, right? But like, you're going after your brother because, well, surprise, surprise, he wants a crack at being king, right? He wants a crack at being on the Iron Throne, and it's just this whole obsessive nature with him and power and all that kind of stuff. And from what I hear, yeah, they're gonna explore that a lot more in the 3rd season, right? But yeah, the moment that everybody will talk about with this swatch, yeah, I would say 2 big moments for this too, out of this finale, is the vision that Demon sees, right?
Right.
And very, very Macbeth like with the witch character.
Right.
And she thought she was very Macbeth like, always saying, oh, you're destined for this, but you need to see all these weird visions, and you need to see for yourself exactly what's gonna happen, right? So yeah, in a nutshell, he touches, well, the tree. I forgot the name of the tree itself. Gosh, I forget the name of the tree.
The werewood, I think. The werewood, honestly.
Which was in the castle in Harrenhal, right? That's the haunted castle that I alluded to earlier, right? Yeah, where all these spirits kind of reside, but you don't see them, you just hear whispers or whatnot, right? And also on the subject of that, mad point for using that as an excuse for showing old characters. So yeah, you actually see Viserys, he show back up, the actor show back up. You actually got Millie Alcock, sorry, who played young Rhaenyra. Yeah, she show up as well too, and actually there's a moment where you see Daemon and Viserys' mother. And how that setup though was very creepy because she literally having sex with Daemon, but it's revealed that, oh, that's actually my mother. Like, oh shit, right? But I like that it's not just mere shock value there because fucking the mom and all that kind of stuff. But actually it's to set up the whole Targaryen bastard thing, right? And that's where you get the subplot where, Rhaenyra is like recruiting all these Targaryen bastards to join this army of hers, right? But she kind of lose me where she kind of put them, she kind of challenged them to one of her dragons, and yeah, the dragon like literally wipe out everybody except for one man, and Hugh, I think that's his name, and then this other guy, I forgot his name, but he was just kind of there as a side character. Yeah, another dragon was going to kill him, but he actually like spare him as well too. So long story short, they become dragon riders as well too, right? But yeah, onto the vision. That's basically setting up what we will see later on in the series here. Basically, that will be Daemon's death. Basically, who else? Boy, Daenerys on her quest, basically on the road to the Iron Throne with the eggs and whatnot, and how she discovers them in the first place. But then also too, and this is the big scene that I know people will really go back to. Yeah, Rhaenyra becoming queen. Well, sorry, Rhaenyra actually sitting on the Iron Throne. That's a big deal, right? So the question remains, or I guess you could touch on this, right? Will she actually become will she actually be on the Iron Throne at the end of the series? Or is it just this is just me speculating here, this is just a version of what we might expect, right? You know, because yeah,
Right.
if I could be wrong about this, right? But this the whole idea of prophecies here. You just think it, oh, it's gonna play out this exact way, but as the series, as the Game of Thrones series kind of say, not exactly, may not play out the way how people expect it at all, because somebody might drop the ball, somebody might get some ego trip, and it won't play out that way at all. So the question remains, will Rhaenyra become will Rhaenyra sit on that Iron Throne or not? We don't know. But yeah, but also I love just execution wise how it's stylized though. It'll be very very well executed just stylistically as far as just that vision goes. I really love it. But yeah, your
Yeah,
thoughts on
yeah,
that scene in particular?
yeah, it's a real hard scene. Like I find it really well done. Like how they do it is a really clever conceit on its own, right? And like yeah, it's like it's vision stuff, and it kind of hint at the like say they show the white we call him the sorry
The
the
White
White Walker.
Walker, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the oh gosh, what's his name? The Ting King now. But we don't know if that is like the one from the Game of Thrones in the future, or if it's the original one from the past now, or the one from before, which will be about 8,000 years or whatever it is. Stuff like that. Like I don't know the way how they frame it as it doesn't really matter if you're watching the past or the future. Though. So yeah, it is working that way. So I enjoyed for what it's trying to do there.
Yeah. Just one point, well, 2 points I want to make, and then we'll wrap things up, right? So if I have another gripe with the season here, and again, it just goes back to how invested you are in this world of Game of Thrones, right? Yeah, you had to know about houses. You have to know about people who live in those houses. You had to know about Targaryens. You had to know about this house and that house and this thing and that thing, right? So and especially who they align to, right? You had to know if they were aligned to this king, and you have to know if they're gonna be aligned to that king in the future. It's all that kind of stuff, right? So unless you like love anthropology or you just love the world of Game of Thrones a lot, yeah, you will know who this house will belong to or will align to and whatnot. But yeah, for me, I was just like, all right, I just need the cliff notes. I just need to know, okay, he'll eventually work with that person. All right, cool, no problem. But I can imagine a lot of people just being confused or they just flat out won't care, right? So for me, another moment that really stood out in this finale was, as I mentioned before, that conversation scene between Rhaenyra and Alicent, right? I love that, right?
Right.
Where with all this talk about war and all that kind of stuff, and eventually at the end of the day, it's just about those two. It's about those two who kind of born into this patriarchal world and they have no say in it. And now they finally have the opportunity to do something about it and actually make change, but they can't really do anything about it still, right? It's sort of a too little, too late kind of thing, right? I love how it's all set up. The acting is great from the two leads here. I love how, even Alicent is just saying, look, Rhaenyra, you could come through with your forces and basically take everything from her, You could basically do that, But she just saying and I love this from a character perspective, how Alicent, from early on, Alicent was just always about how always thinking about how history will remember her, right? It's always about how she's being looked on by people around her, right? She wants to be virtuous in everything that she does, right? So yeah, Rhaenyra kind of call out to that, like, how will people look at you if you just basically open the door and just let the enemy come and just destroy everything? Like, it's not gonna be a good look on you, right? So yeah, at the end of the day, Rhaenyra's still gonna come for, it's still gonna launch the attack, right? That's done, right? But I love that there is the illusion at the end of the day that maybe she might change her mind. And I actually do love that, sort of ends on this sort of open-ended kind of thing. Like, will Rhaenyra actually be generous enough to spare Alicent's family, or will she just wipe everybody out and claim the throne for herself, right? And especially with what she knows now, right? Now that, Daemon told her, yeah, you are supposed to be on that Iron Throne, right? So we'll see how things play out there. But there, that scene was great. And yeah, where it ends basically where Alicent actually leaves. She actually flees her home, and we were not sure where she's at. Actually, her father Otto, because he was there kind of wondering what happened to him because he got kicked out thanks to Aegon. Yeah, he's holed up somewhere in some prison. We don't know where or why, but we'll see what happens there. So yeah, again, just to wrap things up at the end of the day, I like where things end, right? but still, it's all the build up, the build up, the build up. And yeah, I wish that we could have seen more of the war, at least something that to have us excited for what to expect in the third season. But I guess we have to see come 2026, right? So rating wise, strong 4 to a very light 4.5 out of 5. I think that this is yet another great season. I can't wait to see what we get next, even though we have to wait 2 more years for this. And yeah, just into the progress of this show, I'm loving what they're doing here so far. But again, I understand the criticisms. I know you'll hear more about it, over the next week or so until some other show come and people forget about this shit. Yeah, it being paced too slow, or it's all build up and the payoff wasn't satisfying at all, and all these things. I totally understand the criticisms, right? But again, this is a show that rewards the patient viewers, right? It's a show that you really had to sit down with and really let it soak. You really had to soak it in, right? Is one of those shows, right? If you want things to happen now, then yeah, you will be very disappointed by this, right? Whether it's a scene of violence or sex, whatever it is. This is not that type of show. Even Game of Thrones itself wasn't like that at all. It was always slow building. It was always leading up to things. And then when the payoff comes up, it's like, yes, that's what we come to see, right? Ricardo, your final thoughts, rated, what you think will happen, and we move on.
I thought they do some interesting ideas in terms of like what to change. I forget what it changed exactly, but it was a good rundown of where they should go with this and why. And I dug the hell out of it in terms of like, all right, so this is where they kill off this character. This is where they kill off do this and they do that, and they make it work for what it was. So I dug it. Rating, yeah, probably an 8. I didn't like it as much as season 1, but still good. Yeah,